Hi, I'm Jeanette Roche. This is Bridge City News. Here are some of the top stories we've been following today.
Reports of the U.S. charging an entry fee for trade talks with Canada has the PM talking tough in response. Plus, the Alberta government releases findings of an advisory panel looking at the future of nuclear energy in the province. And we bring you the story of a local runner whose life was saved thanks to the CPR knowledge of his fellow athletes.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Jeanette Roche.
Thanks for joining us. Prime Minister Mark Carney responded to a Radio Canada report today which cited officials who say Americans are imposing an entry fee on trade talks with Canada. Carney says the U.S. won't dictate the terms of negotiations on the continental trade deal, but it will take time to reach an agreement.
We have multiple levels of contact. We've worked through a series of issues. We understand what some of what the Americans would call trade irritants or trade issues are. We have some on our side as well. We're well prepared around those issues. We will sit down and work through those issues with the broader approach in the negotiation. We've made some counter proposals, which they're aware. It's not a case of the United States dictates the terms. We have the negotiation. We can come to a mutually successful outcome. It will take some time. We have a very strong team in this government, and I believe in the team, the ministers, Secretary of State, parliamentary secretaries, responding to Canadians, and that's important. That's important to how we govern. We govern as a team.
Canada's chief trade negotiator with the U.S. said Tuesday the country has already made significant concessions. These include dropping the digital services tax, issuing millions of dollars in refunds to tech companies, and ending retaliatory tariffs. The federal Liberal government is flexing its newfound majority. The Carney Liberals are expected to make a move to seize control of House of Commons committees. Liberal House Leader Stephen McKinnon indicated on Tuesday the government will soon move a motion to change the rules governing House of Commons procedures to ensure the Liberals have the most votes on committees. McKinnon says having the majority will help the government deliver results while avoiding, quote, silly partisan games. The Conservatives say the move will make it easier for the government to avoid scrutiny, calling it a, quote, cynical power grab. In the Middle East, it's now a waiting game to see if the United States and Iran return to the negotiating table after U.S. President Donald Trump unilaterally extended the ceasefire with Iran to give Tehran time to come up with what he called a unified proposal. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif thanked Trump for agreeing to the extension, saying it would buy time for ongoing diplomatic efforts. Meanwhile, this morning, Iran fired on a container ship in the Strait of Hormuz. We get more from John Gambrell with the Associated Press.
No one was hurt in that attack, but it apparently did severe damage to the bridge of that container ship. Iranian media outlet Noor News, which has long been associated with Iran's Supreme National Security Council, its top decision-making body, said that Iranian forces opened fire after the ship did not respond to demands of its military. Now, Iran has maintained a chokehold on the Strait of Hormuz since the war began. It's believed that it also has mined parts of the strait and had been demanding payments of as much as $2 million to allow ships to pass through. This has affected the flow of natural gas and oil through the strait. During peacetime, about 20% of the world supply of both moved through there. That's having tremendous impacts on the global economy. It remains unclear whether we'll see any ceasefire talks in Islamabad. Right now, Iran has not formally acknowledged Trump extending the ceasefire, waiting for an Iranian response. But it just shows with this latest ship attack just how dangerous the situation remains and the risk of further escalation.
In other news, Air Transat is cutting hundreds of flights due to the high cost of jet fuel. Parent company Transat AT says it will reduce capacity by 6% from May through October, a time that falls during the critical summer travel season. The decision follows recent moves by Air Canada and WestJet to trim capacity as carriers around the world drop less profitable routes and ground older planes in the face of high fuel costs sparked by the war in Iran. If you're still planning to travel, Marissa Duhaney with the Associated Press has some tips.
The war in Iran is impacting world travel, with Europe and Asia now staring down a major jet fuel shortage that could happen within a few weeks. In a sign of the conflict's ongoing repercussions for airlines, Air Canada said Friday it was canceling service to New York John F. Kennedy International Airport between June and October due to surging jet fuel costs. Carriers have also already started passing costs onto consumers by increasing fees for baggage and embedding costs into ticket prices. But consumers still have options that can determine how much of their travel budget will get taken up by paying to get to and from their destination. 1. Act quickly. While you may be tempted to see if the war ends before buying an airline ticket, travel experts say the wait-and-see approach is riskier this year. 2. Keep an open mind. If you don't need to reach a specific place at a specific time, consider shifting your departure or return date by a day or two to save on airfare. 3. Travel light. Sticking to a carry-on bag can help avoid higher fees for checking luggage. 4. Redeem your points. The number of airline points needed for many flights has not increased at the same pace. And 5. Explore travel credit cards. Sign-up bonuses may yield benefits that can be put to use as soon as this summer, while others may include perks like free or discounted checked bags.
The Alberta government is pumping more dollars into cancer care so more women can access free breast cancer screenings. The government has announced $2.25 million going to Cancer Care Alberta in partnership with Fertility Alberta to allow women who are 40 and older to access the free screenings. The funding also creates a new onco-fertility program for women who might be considering having children after cancer treatment.
When a patient indicates interest in a fertility consultation, they will have timely access to funded urgent fertility consultation so that they can quickly understand their options before treatment begins. If they choose to proceed with fertility preservation, the program, when fully designed and implemented, will provide financial and emotional support for procedures such as egg or sperm retrieval and freezing, as well as storage and future fertility treatment and care. This means patients can focus on their treatment and recovery without carrying the added financial burden of preserving their future fertility. As someone who has been through cancer, I know how important it is to have support when it matters most and to have hope for what comes next.
The onco-fertility program is expected to benefit between 250 and 400 patients annually. 8 months after it was launched, Alberta Nuclear Energy Engagement and Advisory Panel has released its final report. After consulting with about 5,000 Albertans representing businesses, municipalities, and Indigenous groups, the panel's report shows broad support for nuclear energy.
This isn't a slam dunk that the Alberta government will proceed, but we did get feedback that Albertans are very interested. They certainly have questions about waste, safety, water usage, and First Nations consultation and engagement. But by and large, there's a great amount of interest to see the province continue to proceed down this pathway to the next steps and a bit of an all-of-the-above approach on an energy mix. Because there is an understanding now of some of the top issues: affordability, reliability, and of course sustainability. And so we want to pursue a generation mix that can accomplish that.
Minister Neudorf says the discussion around nuclear energy is only at the engagement stage. Consultation would only come down the road when a project is in the works, but he says it will be at least a decade before anything is operational. Applications are now open for Lethbridge residents to receive rebates for purchasing rain barrels and switching to low-flow toilets at residential properties. The Environmental Incentive Program covers 50% of the cost of barrels and toilets for up to $100 for each item to anyone with a residential water utility account. Last year, the program approved 360 rain barrels and 140 low-flow toilets for rebates. which, for reference, can conserve an approximate 2 million liters of water.
You think about a low-flow toilet, that's something you do once. You replace it once, and then it's used multiple times a day for its lifetime. And so you only have to think about that conservation piece once. And so you end up gaining on that water conservation for years to come, right? And so that is a big success. On the rain barrels, that's that much less water that is being used, or treated water that's being used to water gardens and lawns and flower beds and whatnot. So again, it's that water savings and water conservation. We recognize that water conservation is a mindset. It's a change in behavior, and that's what we're looking for over years, and it takes time to get there.
The program begins today and runs through December 31st or until funding runs out. Residents can apply for up to 2 rebates per item, and applications can be filled out on the City of Lethbridge website. Volunteers were out in full force for Earth Day today, cleaning the vast park space at Indian Battle Park and throughout the coulees. The first day of coulee cleanup put on by the Helen Schuler Nature Center is expected to bring in hundreds of volunteers to clear garbage and natural debris, tidying up the stretch of parks along the Old Man River Valley from today through May 31st.
People that live in Lethbridge really care for the River Valley, and we all know how lucky we are to have this beautiful natural asset. So people are excellent at rallying around taking responsibility, and Coulee Cleanup is a terrifically popular event. We have over 1,000 volunteers every year that sign up for a section, a little slice of the coulee to clean up, and it all gets done. So when you're out in the coulees enjoying this beautiful park space that we have, I hope that you will think to yourself, man, thanks volunteers.
Earth Day is very important for our environment, of course, but Coulee Cleanup is a way for everybody to get together, for one big collective to volunteer. Having it coincide with National Volunteer Week has been just wonderful to be able to tie both initiatives in together, because we need those volunteers for Coulee Cleanup, but yet we can also recognize and celebrate them this week. So that's been great.
Volunteers can sign up at the Helen Schuler Nature Center website. 4 Lethbridge residents who were out for a cold January run have been recognized as local heroes after they kept a man alive who was in cardiac arrest. BCN's Naveen Day spoke with 2 of them, as well as the grateful patient.
He's sitting on the computer looking at my file, and he's looking at me, and he goes, "You should be dead."
Imagine being out for a run, and then suddenly the lights go out and you are at risk of taking your final breaths. Well, that's what happened to Ralph Arnold, an avid runner who was taking part in a long-distance run with members of the Runner's Soul Run Club in January when he suddenly collapsed. He had suffered a cardiac arrest, a life-threatening emergency where every second matters. Now, Ralph has no memory from the day of until a few days after, but he is able to share his story from witness accounts.
I biffed it. My wife thought I'd fainted because I have a history of fainting. She flipped me over and brushed the snow off my face. And then one of the fellow runners came along. There's like 4 of them came along. One had a cell phone, dialed 911. The other one figured out that I had a heart attack. She was a nurse, and they all started CPR. They all took turns.
Being in a group of people who were also running worked to Ralph's advantage in this case. 4 fellow runners came to his aid, including a nurse and a teacher, both certified in first aid and CPR.
And we could see Charlotte and Alvin waving us down. We couldn't see what was happening. And then when we came upon Ralph, we saw that it was somebody who was on the floor. And so I think Charlotte got on the phone quite right away to call 911. And then I did my assessment to see if he was responsive to any type of stimuli, looked at his breathing, and then just started chest compressions.
Alvin and I had come up next. I was on the phone with EMS and just, I guess, talking through what was happening, checking his pulse, letting them know what was happening with Ralph. And yeah, it took about 8 minutes for EMS to get there, and and they kind of took over.
Here at Lethbridge Fire Hall Station 1, a plaque is mounted on the wall to recognize the 4 people that came to Ralph's aid. The plaque includes an electrocardiogram of Ralph's heart when EMS arrived. EMS Operations Officer Mike Humphrey says if it were not for the combined efforts of these 4 individuals, Ralph would have had a different outcome.
In this situation with Ralph, it's likely Ralph would have died if our community heroes didn't step up and do CPR. For every minute that goes by without CPR, the chances of survival decrease by 10%. So if it took us 6 minutes to get there, Ralph was more likely to die than live without the actions of our bystanders.
As for Ralph, he still has quite a bit of road to recovery ahead of him, but he is grateful that the clock did not run out on him. For Bridge City News, I'm Naveen Day.
Thank you so much for that, Naveen. The historic foundations of nursing and the future of nursing will be the topics of discussion at a conference this weekend in Lethbridge. The University of Lethbridge and Lethbridge Polytechnic are co-hosting a regional gathering of the Canadian Association of Schools of Nursing. Organizers say besides networking and professional engagement, the conference will strengthen collaboration among Western Canadian nursing programs and highlight Lethbridge as a host community committed to healthcare education.
WNRC has and rotates sites throughout their post-secondary institutions that are affiliated with the organization. This is an exceptional opportunity for both our programs to showcase the excellent work that we're doing here within Southern Alberta, but also draw in several post-secondary academia to our region to see some of the amazing things that we have going on here. Bridging practice and possibility. The idea really stems from our own high-level bridge and really showcases the idea that nursing has always been about bridging, building connection with our patients, with our students, community, and really looking at some of those foundational nursing pieces that we want to bring forward, but we're also looking forward to the future and how do we connect and build those pieces.
Which brings together nursing educators and leaders to share ideas, innovation in nursing education, and the latest research that we have. Well, to come together, be able to hear about the new ideas, what's working in nursing education. They're going to be looking at the new technologies that are coming out and how we can better improve our nursing education. Nursing education is constantly evolving, and so this is an area that we want to really highlight, Lethbridge and Southern Alberta in terms of our excellence and commitment, a deep commitment.
The conference takes place from April 26th through the 28th at the Sandman Signature Lethbridge Lodge.
Sean Haney here with realagriculture.com. The capital chill in the Canadian agricultural economy is becoming impossible to ignore on dealership lots this spring. According to the latest data from the Association of Equipment Manufacturers, March 2026 saw a significant pullback in the machinery investment as producers navigate tightening margins and a very cautious lending environment. In Canada, agricultural tractor sales fell over 16% last month, but the real shocker is in the combine market. Canadian combine sales dipped a staggering 60% compared to March of last year. While the year started with a brief flash of strength back in January, that momentum has completely evaporated. Year to date, every major category in Canada is in the red. Two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive tractors are both down nearly 8%, while combines are down over 11%. This isn't just a monthly blip. It's a sustained market weakness driven by poor farm profitability. Dealers are watching inventory levels rise while producers wait for a clear signal that the economic weather is finally ready to break. For Bridge City News, I'm Sean Haney with realagriculture.com.
While the most immediate effect on the Iran war is spiking gasoline prices, other items could also soon be affected. There are more than 6,000 consumer products that are made with petrochemicals derived from oil and natural gas. Petroleum derivatives are also used in a lot of product packaging. Shoe and apparel trade groups and companies that sell stuffed animals, home products, and medical supplies are looking at price increases or other ways to offset higher material costs. Experts say those in the market for a new vehicle should factor the rising cost of fuel into their budgets. Canadian Automobile Association Managing Director for Public Affairs, Christine Darbels, says a third of car ownership costs go straight to gas prices and suggests that's a pretty big chunk. Recent analysis by ratehub.ca says Canadians are paying an average of $231 a month on fuel, a figure that was 40% higher than before the war in the Middle East put upward pressure on prices. Before the outbreak of hostilities at the end of February, the average monthly cost of owning a car in Canada stood at $1,373, a figure that has now risen to $1,439. Well, yesterday we reported that Tim Cook, CEO of Apple, is stepping down, with John Turnus, the company's senior vice president, following in his footsteps. With more about who John Turnus is Ben Wood, chief analyst with CCS Insight.
John Turnus, who will succeed Tim Cook as the CEO of Apple, is a long-time Apple employee. He's been mentored by Tim Cook and essentially groomed for this top role. He's an expert in hardware in particular, which is such a central pillar to Apple's business, but he's very much a continuity candidate as well. So Apple, having only had kind of essentially two CEOs over the last many decades, is quite conservative, and I expect that this recruitment or this appointment is very much about continuity and employing someone who will have the role for a very long time.
And with that, here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX is up 146 to 33,955. The Dow is up 340 to 49,490. The S&P 500 was up 73 to 7,137. And the Nasdaq was up 397 to 24,657. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up $3.23 to $92.90 US per barrel. Natural gas was up a cent to $2.71 US. Gold was down $4.04 to $47.1654 US an ounce, and silver was up $1.03 to $77.64 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $8.41 per bushel. Barley is at $6.86. Canola is at $16.40, and corn is at $7.67 per bushel. Live cattle are down 57 cents to $246.85. Feeder cattle were up 22 cents to $366.80, and lean hogs May contract was down 35 cents to $95.05. The Canadian dollar was up over the past 24 hours and sits at $73.20 US.
Recapping one of our top stories today, Prime Minister Mark Carney is responding to reports suggesting the Americans are imposing an entry fee on trade talks with Canada and demanding concessions before talks begin. Carney says there are multiple levels of contact on both sides, and he acknowledged there are trade irritants on both sides as well. He says Ottawa has made some counter proposals and says there will come a time to really roll up our sleeves. Stress, anxiety, and burnout are rising concerns in the workplace, and traditional stress management techniques are often not enough. Rob Jedden, a certified health and wellness coach, comes with knowledge, expertise, and tips on how to manage stress by finding your why. Stay with us to find out more. Also, when you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. You can also visit our website or our YouTube channel anytime for more of our content and poll questions.